All right, guys. Well, we do have a few crazy upsets to get to here on this Thursday bracket update. I'm going to be doing probably my final bracketology either tomorrow or Saturday. I'm not sure which day I'm going to do it yet. And I will very likely be streaming tomorrow night and maybe also tonight, and also obviously on Sunday, my reaction to the selection show. So be wary of that. But let's just react to these games. We got really the first rounds kicking off on a lot of these major conference tournaments. How about this first one? Cincinnati destroying Kansas. And now Cincinnati, after this win, are they possibly looking at being in the tournament? They are 20-13, 7-11 in Big 12 play. That's not great, but so far in their conference tournament, very impressive. Kansas, you got to imagine possibly falling back to the 5 line. Although you do have to say, this is a game that requires some context, and Kansas was very injured in this game. They were missing several key players, so how will that weight on how impressive of a win this was for Cincinnati based on who Kansas was missing this late into the season? We'll have to see. 52 points, a week before the tournament starts. That's just not going to get it done. You do have BYU crushing UCF. They were up. I saw this game. It started early, and they were up 11-0, and I was like, oh, that game's over. But yeah, BYU, not surprised there. They're a solid team, possibly a 5 seed. A little bit surprised with St. Joseph's beating George Mason. George Mason was having a really nice second half of the year, but that's kind of no one really cares about that game. FSU beats Georgia Tech, pretty meaningless ACC game. Both of those teams may be fighting for an NIT bid, but they're not going to get it. You do have USC beating Washington. So, yes, Bronny James and USC, they're having a late season surge. They got an upset win at the end of the season, and now they advance in the Pac-12 tournament. Washington, they're 17-15. They're not a great basketball school. TCU beats Oklahoma in the battle of 9 seeds. Well, both of those teams will probably be like 8-9 seeds, but yeah, TCU, really good first half. They hang on to win there. Temple beats UTSA. A meaningless game. Xavier beats Butler. So Butler may be a bubble team. They're officially done at 18-14. You can't be 9-11 in Big East play. Maybe if you had a really good non-conference, you could possibly get in. But at 18-14, losing to Xavier, you needed to beat Xavier and probably at least win another game. Colorado State crushes San Jose State. Or I guess they didn't crush them. They won by 10. But yeah, San Jose State, it's hard. The Mountain West this year was so good. You can see they finished 2-16. If it was a typical Mountain West year, I'm guessing San Jose State, they still would have a losing record, but they'd probably have like 6 or 7 conference wins. McNeese, congratulations are in order. They run through Nichols. I was kind of rooting for Nichols, I'm not going to lie. But McNeese at 30-3, they're a power keg. And they're a big hoss, and they're a team that a lot of people are going to be picking as an upset potential over maybe a 5 seed if they're a 12, which is where I expect them to be seeded somewhere around there. Maybe, maybe a 13. But, 30-3, you would figure they would get a 5 seed. Imagine them versus Kentucky. No, I think Kentucky's probably going to get a 4, maybe a 3 seed. But they score a ton of points, 92 points in regulation. You can see at the bottom, UCLA over Oregon State. I don't know, man. UCLA in March, they play well. Imagine they go on a run. Very unlikely. They're 16-16. Providence beats Georgetown. So Providence now at 20-12. They are on the bubble, 10-10 in Big East play. That's kind of an easy win for Providence. Get it out of the way. Get yourself an extra win on the resume. You got to like that. It's a free win. Georgetown sitting at 9-23. And, of course, congratulations are in order. It's a yearly tradition at this point to Colgate University. Out of the Patriot League, I hope you were listening yesterday when I said, I don't know how Colgate is only a 6.5-point favorite. I thought there was an injury. Well, it turned out the line really got bet on Colgate. I think they closed -8.5, -9, and they easily dispatch of Lehigh. Lehigh will see you in the CBI. I don't know, maybe they will make the CBI, but yeah, Colgate wins that by 19. They should enter the tournament possibly as a 14 seed, but likely as a 15 seed, maybe one of those two seed lines. New Mexico crushes Air Force, no surprise there. New Mexico needs to win another game to assure themselves in the tournament, but, they were always going to crush Air Force. Arkansas beats Vanderbilt in overtime, so a little bit surprised there, but Vanderbilt's been more competitive later on in the season. I will give them credit for that. Kansas State beats Texas. Bit of a surprise. I still do like Texas when it comes to the tournament in like an 8v9 game. I think I'll pick them to win. Even in a 7v10, like them against Colorado State, I would have to see how the analytics line up for something like that. But, it's a close game. Texas was winning throughout most of it. Kansas State comes back late. NC State beats Syracuse. Syracuse will see you in the NIT. Have fun. You lose by 18. Come on. They are 20-12, but the ACC not good enough this year. You got to be better than 11-9 in conference play. And then looking at the bottom, Michigan, what a nightmare season. I was shocked Michigan was only 6.5-point underdogs. I know Penn State barely covered this spread, but it just seemed like Michigan gave up late in the season. They finished 8-24, and Penn State moves on there. Fairfield, they're a team. It's either them or Quinnipiac, I feel like, from that conference. They barely beat Iona, but they did get the win. Remember when Iona was relevant with Rick Pitino for those few years? I guess he was coaching them last year, I think, but or was that the year before? I don't know. Either Fairfield gets that win. Villanova needs to be eliminated from the bubble. I'm sorry. You cannot beat DePaul by 1 point and still be a bubble team. They're 18-14. I don't care what their analytics say. They beat DePaul by 1 point. DePaul falls to 3-29. I said DePaul was the worst Power 6 team in like history almost. It's been really bad for them. And then how about this? I'll tell you what. Clemson is a one and done. They're going to lose in the first round. You can't lose to Boston College, a team that went 8-12 in conference play. Clemson only went 11-9. Clemson had a lot of wins early in the season. They didn't finish the season out extremely strong, and I think they're a paper tiger, figuratively and literally. But yeah, 21-point victory, 55 points for Clemson. It's hard to really say they're going to do much in terms of the tournament. If I were to give you guys advice, I would say have Clemson lose early. They're possibly going to be a 6 seed matched up with Indiana State. Yeah, that's a loss if that happens. Come on. How about this? Montana State. Congratulations are in order. We just had Montana State make the tournament. I went to bed and I thought Montana was going to get in because they were up at halftime. And then Montana State drops 53 points in the second half. Wow. So Montana State, remember when they faced Texas Tech and Texas Tech beat them like 100-50 in the tournament in a 3v14 game? Yeah, they're 17-17. They're not even good. They went 9-9 in the Big Sky. I'm not going to pick on them, though. Let's move on to the actual Autobid. So I'm just going to go through this list and talk about kind of the best teams that are in the tournament based off the seeds. These teams are guaranteed to be in it. So St. Mary's, right now listed possibly as a 6 seed, maybe a 7 seed. They got a big win over Gonzaga. You do have Drake, very likely to be an 11 seed. Yeah, imagine a matchup where it's Drake versus Clemson. I think I'd pick Drake. James Madison is another very zesty, or I don't know if zesty is the right word. That verbiage has kind of been thrown around on the internet nowadays. You're not supposed to, But James Madison is a team 31-3. Very impressive. McNeese is another team. Boy, there's a lot of 11-12 seeds. McNeese sitting with just 3 losses as well. Basically a carbon copy of James Madison. Sanford is in, Charleston, Oakland, very likely to be a 13-14 seed. Morehead State probably going to be a 14 seed. Colgate, they're probably going to be a 14 seed as well. South Dakota State, I've seen them as a 16 seed. Longwood probably a 16 seed. Stenson a 16 seed. And Wagner, because they're like 1 game over 500, they will also be a 16 seed. Now let's take a look at the in-depth bubble and the total percent chances. You can see the gray area. Nebraska, 100% chance they're obviously going to be in. TCU, Washington State, Northwestern, Michigan State, Oklahoma. We would figure FAU is going to be in. We would figure at this point Colorado is going to be in unless they get a crazy upset loss. St. John's, I would imagine they're going to be in as a first four team. And then you do have a bunch of teams still remaining. Seton Hall at around a 65% chance. Cincinnati has slingshotted to a 60% chance to make the tournament with that record. Wow. Colorado State 50-50, Texas A&M 50-50, Wake Forest basically 50-50. Villanova needs to be eliminated after something like that. You can't beat DePaul by 1 point and be in, I'm sorry. Mississippi State, they're probably going to be in, but I agree with these analytics. I don't think Mississippi State's that good. New Mexico at around a 36% chance. Kansas State within shouting distance. Virginia, I don't think they're going to be in. Indiana State, that's an analytical thing. They'll be in, guys. Or I would expect them to either be in or be one of the top teams out. They've got a better than a 22% chance at this point. Ohio State, it's all in front of them. You know, they need to win 2 games. There's no doubt about it. They've got a 19% chance right now. For Ohio State, the issue is really not beating Iowa, although that game should be good. Both Ohio State and Iowa right now on the bubble, but Ohio State with a much better chance to get in. You can see Iowa at around 6% chance. But that is the big game of the night. Ohio State versus Iowa. Winner has a legit shot to make the tournament. The loser will see you as a 3 seed in the NIT. That's what's on the line there. So, and I think Ohio State will win that game. But can Ohio State actually beat Illinois? That's a terrible draw. That's not a good draw. Providence listed as around a 12% chance. Pittsburgh, 11% chance. Utah. Listen, I didn't mention it, but Utah, they throttled. I forgot who they faced last night, but they throttled someone last night. That was a big win for Utah. But Utah just took on too much water late in the season. They had that run kind of middle of the way through the season, and everyone thought they were going to be like a 5 seed in the tournament, kind of similar to Wisconsin. Well, Wisconsin was actually thought to be like a 2 seed at one point, but you can see there's also, Montana State's obviously in, but Iowa also down there. So those are really the teams on the bubble at this point. There are a lot right now still remaining. And the big story is Cincinnati kind of slingshotting themselves possibly in the tournament, even with that bad record, because the Big 12 is such a good conference. They might end up getting into the first 4 based off that dominant win over Kansas. And again, it is important to point out, Kansas was very injured. The analytics really can't take that into account. So how much will the committee weigh that in looking at this Cincinnati team? Because this is a very big win. But it's against a team that's injured right now. What's the context of that when you look at their record? So we will see. Either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.